Hello, everyone. My name is Jeba Edmonds, and welcome to my channel. Let's get out of our rut and step into a more inclusive mindset. And we are going to talk more about what's an inclusive mindset on today's Culture Curriculum Chat. And if you're watching on my YouTube channel, Mrs. Edmonds Cultural Corner, let's get into it. I talk all things cultural competency and workplace strategies to get you on the right footing of creating positive change. Don't forget to subscribe now to the Cultural Curriculum Chat podcast and stay updated on the latest best practice strategies of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging practices. Today, we have an exciting topic in store for you, showing you how one can be more inclusive by building that inclusive mindset muscle. Let me just give you the 5, because I don't want to waste your time. We've got goals, small steps, accountability, learn from our failures, and celebrate those wins. So first and foremost, we want to set our clear goals. And this could be an example of being intentional about patronizing a BIPOC-owned business. You could be utilizing a service that is known for adults with different abilities. You could be reaching out to an immigrant neighbor and try to start a conversation with them. These small goals will lead you and push you and guide you to be more inclusive in your everyday practice. Our second step I want to talk about are making those small action steps. Think of ways at work where you're out of your workplace meetings to become more inclusive. That could be setting a quarterly time during the day that all employees can enjoy, a no agenda meeting, and you just gather together and network and continue to build that trust. Another thing you could do could be setting up these type of meetings to do these leadership type of games. You could have these different activities. I know companies that have cornhole contests right on their veranda of their office building, and they have a tournament every year. It doesn't have to be something that's overthought. It could be something so simple as a game, just to boost up camaraderie in your workplace culture. The third thing I want us to talk more about is accountability. We're going to make mistakes, honey. We're going to step into things. I always say that. You're going to step in some stuff. But I think the biggest piece and takeaway of this would be to think about apologizing first and foremost and saying, I will learn from this moment and do better. It's not your job to do the work for me. It's my job to learn and do better. Hold yourself accountable, because we're all in this human experience together. And if we don't hold ourselves accountable, then things get pushed under the rug and start to fester and start to have more animosity at work and even with our neighbor. So just take your lumps and go, oh, yeah, I stepped in it. I'm going to do better. It's not your job. I will do better. And I wholeheartedly apologize for my action and the harm that I have caused. That goes a long way. Next thing I want you to think about is learning from your own failures. You stepped in it. Now what's next? Maybe initiative to bring a survey about learning about your recruitment efforts of hiring more diverse work. Maybe your recruitment efforts failed in having a diverse staff. Go back into those exit interviews of the people that have left to survey them of what went wrong and what can we do to foster a more inclusive environment. And some things you're going to have to talk with your HR departments. And maybe if you're a small business owner, see about how you can pivot that to make sure your next employee or your next client does not get that same amount of treatment that was happening to your previous client or your previous employee. I want you to ask yourself, when you're doing this focus on your failure, is to think about auditing the environment that's been going on. And I do have a free inclusive workplace environment worksheet that is for you in the show notes so that you can use this audit with your workforce and see what you can do to be more proactive in your work. Thinking about what's missing and what was the environment that made the staff continue to leave? What wasn't followed through is another really good question to ask. And were there any clear expectations of work responsibility? Did your client or your employee feel psychologically safe? We all talk about physical safety in our buildings, but what about psychological safety? How they felt like they belonged or they didn't feel like they could be their full authentic self at work. Those are the kinds of questions you need to evaluate and reevaluate quarterly, not just once a year. And our fifth one, you got to celebrate those wins. There's going to be some wonderful milestones along the way when you're doing this work. So thinking about how we're all in this together, maybe you connected with that friend that doesn't look like you, think like you, believe like you, and you hit it off by having something in common. And celebrate that. Maybe you weren't afraid going to the grocery store when someone asked you a question. Celebrate that win. Maybe you made a really cool connection with somebody that you've been meaning to talk to for months and months, and you finally got the courage to invite them over for a coffee on your front porch. Hey, that's a win too. There's so many fun things that you can use to celebrate and to continue to motivate you to be more inclusive in your mindset. Maybe your own bias got in the way of understanding a colleague. And when you relearn to check and correct that bias and you re-engage with that colleague of yours, that you probably feel more connected with that person. Remember, actions speak louder than words. So be sure to set these clear expectations and follow through with it. Remember, you're going to make a mistake, and I believe in you. You're going to get back up, and you're going to do great things by promoting positive change and including others that you focus on being consistent and get to work. Best of luck. I believe in you. Make sure before we go that you write down these 5 actionable steps of building up your inclusive mindset muscle. We're going to talk about goals. Think of a goal that you want to pursue tomorrow. I also want you to also think about those small steps that you can take to get that goal to work. Then I want you to hold yourself accountable. Give yourself that question of what happens when I mess up. The 4th one, I want you to learn from your failure so you can regroup and re-engage moving forward. And the 5th one, I want you to celebrate your wins. Connecting with neighbors you've never met before, working with a colleague that you were unsure of, and it actually was successful. All of these things are wins, and I know you can do it. These actionable steps, you don't have to overthink it, but you do need to get moving, and you need to start now. Thank you again so much for following along on the Culture Curriculum Chat podcast and on my YouTube channel, Mrs. Edmonds Cultural Corner. I look forward to seeing you here same time next week. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you get the latest news from me, your girl, Jebba Edmonds, in your inbox so you get the latest every Friday in real time. I can't wait to see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.